Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago. 224.
Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman in the business today, Sonny Hersh, and your host, Avi Meyers.
Avi Meyers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Welcome. And hey, Marty, how you doing? Thank you so much. Didn't get there today, but very nice. You always take good care of me, and I do appreciate that. Dial us up on the World Wide Web at ntnm.org, where you can watch our shows. You know, there's links there directly to YouTube. And at this point, over 17,000 of you have made the mistake of watching our shows, and we do appreciate.
That makes me feel good.
Well, you're all 17,000. I didn't know if you know that.
Thank you very much.
And I also want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, who's the district advisory, is the chairman of the district advisory committee for camps for the 24th district, West Rogers Park and Rogers Park, and he's also in charge of court advocacy. And if you go to camps24.org, you'll find out where all the local police meetings are for the neighborhood, and it's a really good idea to attend these meetings in person. You can talk directly to the policemen that patrol our streets, and if you have a concern or want to know what's going on, there's nothing that replaces talking to these policemen face to face, rather than all these horrible rumors that get spread all over the place all the time. And that's just the way public life is. At this point, of course, it is a pleasure and privilege to introduce you to the three-term, running for a four-term senator of the 8th District, somebody who's running once again against fierce competition in his Senate race. I mean, unbelievable, the kind of rough Senate campaign he's got ahead of him. We're talking about the chairman of the Executive Committee, Ira Silverstein.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
How you doing? And let's talk about that fierce opposition in the Senate race.
Well, I'm grateful that I don't have any opposition, but you know, you're out there every day, and if someone wants to run, they can run. But I think I'm doing a good job for the 8th District, and I'm very honored that I don't have any opposition for this term.
Well, that's a good
But we
thing.
still have to deal with the election in November next year, so we'll be running, and we'll get our message out, and hopefully get reelected.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have never not voted for you. That's I can say.
That's good to hear. Let's continue voting for me. How's that?
Early and often.
Yeah,
no, I know you don't like that.
No, not nowadays. You don't know who's listening.
Well, actually, I do know who's listening, and I also know that these people better have a sense of humor. Because if I can say that to the state's attorney, if I can say that to judges, you know, you know yourself. They just won't let you vote more than once. We've got a strong Republican judge in my district,
well, so just do it legal. That's what we want to make sure.
Absolutely. And maybe even I'll do my homework and might even look to see who I'm voting for.
I don't want to go there.
Well, Springfield Follies. Let's talk about it. This has been the most amazing session of the legislature I think anybody's ever seen.
It's been a circus. I mean, the egos are getting bigger than the rotunda. Right now, we're at this hour and time of the month, we still haven't solved the CTA crisis. No one's getting along. I mean, the rank and file want to do something, but it's the leaders. Madigan's not talking to Blagojevich. Jones is not talking to Madigan. You can't, and back and forth. It's really getting out of hand. It's a lot of us are extremely frustrated. I spoke to President Jones as of yesterday, and I told him that something you've got to move. We got to move on this stuff. I don't think anything will be done by the end of the year. I think when we come back in January, something will pop. But the public has been strung along, especially with the CTA, for the last 60 to 90 days. And it's awful. People rely on the CTA to go to school, to work, anywhere. And to them, this is they don't understand what's going on. And it's really unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate.
Well, unfortunately, I am a CTA taker. I'll probably be on one in the next hour and a half to go to edit the show. And unfortunately, I do understand what's going on, and that makes me even crazier.
Well, and to us who are rank and file members, you know, we lean on the president. I'm sure, you know, I speak to my House reps; they're leaning on Speaker Madigan. But you know, when you have an atmosphere where in Springfield where no one gets along, it's very difficult, extremely difficult. And I think right after January, probably the second week of January when we go back, we'll probably pass Representative Hamos's bill, something like that. You know, gaming is the big thing right now.
Right.
I mean, that's how it's going to fund the capital project, which is, you know, we haven't had a capital project here in years, which would fund for schools and roads, and that would fund the CTA But you can't do a gaming bill, especially putting a casino in Chicago, in 2 weeks. It takes months because everyone wants, has their ideas, and the devil is always in the detail. So, I don't know about that aspect about having a casino in Chicago. There might be, but I don't know if that's going to be the way we're going to solve the CTA crisis. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, one of the problems, and we don't have to get too deeply into it, but I give credence to some of the people who like to say that for each dollar gambling brings in, it causes other social ills.
It is a very heated argument. It's extremely heated. I mean, we rely. The problem is we don't know how to raise a new revenue, and gaming is the only thing. And now we're discovering, there's articles in the paper the last couple of days that even in Detroit, Michigan, gaming has not been the how can I say it, the carte blanche. The money has not been flowing in like it has. So I think that's going to play a factor. But there are so many interests in there when you do gaming. You want to put slots in the racetracks, and how many slots you're going to put in, and where's the boat going to be, and is it going to be a land base, and is it going to be in Chicago, is it going to be in Waukegan? There are so many variables. Everyone's got their hands in the pot, and you just can't rush this thing. It could be done. I mean, I've seen it done. I did it. I was involved in the O'Hare expansion, which I was involved in the ComEd rate negotiations. It takes time. You just can't sit at a table and say boom, 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 because something will go wrong.
And even so, even though it seemed to me like there was this pretty happy conclusion out of ComEd, when I read that they now have the power to switch who they're going to buy, which grid they're going to buy their power from.
But we're going to have an authority to oversee it. So there are a lot of strings. They got a lot of hoops they got to go through. So they're under more scrutiny than they were before.
No, that'll be good. And if they're able to switch to the East Coast power grid, they're basically, once again, that'll be a 10% bump in profit for them.
Yeah, well,
or prices.
Prices. But there is going to be a new authority which will be starting up shortly that's going to be regulating that. So we've got enough oversight over them that they had before.
Yeah. Now, of course, after January 1st, you because the session is only 6 months overtime at this point.
I've given up counting. I mean, I just tell my wife I'm going to Springfield again. She's like, goodbye. I mean, what are you going to do? It's been on and off.
When I was a kid, it was every other year in Springfield. It wasn't even a yearly session.
No, but January 1st, we go back to the regular majority.
Right. So you don't need the 60% supermajority.
That's the key here, because when you need the supermajority, everyone wants. That's what I think Speaker Madigan is waiting for, to get his 60 votes back, and then he'll start moving, and then the same thing in the Senate.
Because actually you might have agreement now among the Democrats, but you need the supermajority.
Yeah, we need the Republicans, and they're going to come up with other issues that really
like the Capitol bill.
Like the Capitol bill. Now, we all want a Capitol bill. The question is, it's got to be done right. You got to make sure everyone gets, everyone's projects gets in. It's got to make sure it's funded properly. It's bonds and all this. We just can't rush that. So I think after January 1st, things will go back to normal in Springfield until May, when everything starts blowing up again.
And that, of course, has definitely got to be the first, second, third, and fourth major issues.
Yeah, and I suspect that what happened this year is going to happen next year. I think this is going to be an ongoing process, unfortunately.
Do you guys actually get any extra pay at all for having to work twice the time? Or?
No. I mean, unless you call it special session, but a lot of legislators have not been going down to Springfield because we don't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can't, with good conscience, go to Springfield, charge the taxpayers money when I sit around and do nothing. I mean, to me, that irritates me. We're going to go down there, let's do something. And Governor Blagojevich has had this tendency, let's just call everyone down there, let's make your life miserable, but it's not working.
And actually, it's interesting because I was reading in the paper yesterday where the IRS is questioning some of his trips back and forth
he's got some other issues. People around him got some legal issues, so we'll see how things play out in the next couple months.
Yeah, and of course, all I can say is that if you guys want to reach Jewish Chicago, as far as Blagojevich goes, you can say I didn't warn you about the guy, because I certainly
Maybe we should listen to you more often when we choose candidates over here.
Yeah, but that would be nice, but of course that's not going to happen.
You never know. Who knows?
Anyway, speaking of candidates, so anyway, we definitely have a neighborhood race.
Yes, we have a little neighborhood race going in the 50th Ward.
And somebody I'm sitting next to is actually part of that.
Yeah, I'm causing a little disturbance in the 50th Ward, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, at least it's better than a disturbance in the forest. But
no, hopefully there won't be any fires. It's too snowy for firing right now. Fires.
No, definitely not. Well, this is such an early election. I mean, the February 5th. I can't even get used to the idea that here we're sitting in a little bit after half past December, and we're talking about having an election in 6-7 weeks.
Well, the powers that be in Springfield put it up to February 5th because they wanted to make sure Illinois was a player. They wanted to help Barack Obama.
Right.
So, it is a very expedited campaign season. I mean, no one wants to deal with anything during the holiday season. So, right after January 1st, that next week, and I think people are going to be inundated with robocalls for every presidential candidate. Even though Barack, I think, is leading here in Illinois 2-1.
2-1.
And,
survey,
you know, you've got a contested state's attorney's race that's going to take off a lot of time and a lot of commercials and just general other local elections that are going on. So it's, you know, they did it for a reason, but it makes a lot of candidates' lives a little more hectic, and we got to be very organized. That's the key here.
Right. Now let's talk about work. What does a ward committeeman do?
A ward committeeman or committeewoman really runs the political organization of that ward.
And we're talking about this is a Democratic one, this is a Republican
Yeah,
one.
so that we have a Republican committeeman in the 50th Ward and a Democratic committeeman in the 50th
Right,
Ward.
and of course you're going up against the incumbent, Berny Stone, who's
That's
been
correct.
there for 8 years.
Correct.
Now, okay, so what's your platform? Why do you feel that people should vote for you?
Well, you know, I supported Bernie when he ran for alderman, but politically we've had some differences about how and what the direction of the 50th Ward should be. I saw that last election, how diverse this ward is, and we have to bring people into the organization. Political organizations aren't what they used to be, but you know you have to start from the grassroots, and we have to reflect the diversity of the 50th Ward, and that's not being done right now. Voter registration is very poor in the 50th Ward. We have to get more people registered. We have to get more people out to vote. Now, I understand in primaries, and I totally agree with people. People don't vote during primaries because they don't want to tell you what their party affiliation is, and I totally believe that. I believe we should have an open primary. You go to the polls, and I don't want to know if you're a Democrat or Republican. That's your choice.
Just one vote for president, be a Democrat or Republican, and then switch over and
something
vote for
like that. I've always believed that an open primary, you'll have more people coming out. You know, how do I care how you vote? And it's public record. You can go down and see how your neighbor or your friends voted. So, and I think that's one problem we have, but that's a bigger issue because that's going to, you know, the powers that be in Springfield will never change the primary system. But you know, I'm bringing new leadership. I have a diverse group of people working with me. And I'm hoping that the 50th citizens of the 50th Ward will look, what direction do we want to go in? And that's all.
Okay, let's talk about in terms of issues, like, for instance, who are you for president?
Well, I'm supporting Barack Obama. I served with Barack. He was my suite mate in Springfield for 6 years until he moved up. So, you know, I think Barack would make a good president. He's intelligent, articulate, and again, he reflects this mood that, you know, let's bring people together. And I mean, if you get to know him personally, you know, I'm very grateful to know him personally, but he just, you know, gives a nice image, and people respond to his message.
Yeah, definitely know you like him because we actually, I know him for a long time. We actually do talk apart from the show. Okay, so president, we're talking about Obama. There's a big state's attorney's fight, but I'm not going to ask you to put your foot in there because the interests are so diverse. Neighborhood issues. There's a school that's construction supposed to start in the spring on the school. For the school, any problems with it?
Well, no. I mean, we haven't seen the plans. I have no problems with the school, because no one. I mean, this was a school that's going up. Alderman Stone was behind the school, you know, and that's his project. So I have no knowledge of what's going on. No one has seen the plans or anything. But when ground breaks, ground breaks.
Okay. Now, neighborhood issues like other. Well, of course, you know, your job would be to like get more people registered and get people voting and voting Democratic, of course. What other neighborhood issues do you see?
Well, I mean, first of all, obviously education. I like to bring more, as I do every year, bring more funding for education to the schools. Public safety, I think we have, you know, the 24th district under Commander Rotner does a phenomenal job, but just try to shore up that element. Economic development is Devon Avenue, and I think, you know, not only the city but the state. I know Congressman Chakowski is trying to get more money for Devon Avenue. I think that's very important. I'd like to see Touhy Avenue develop a little more too. You know, Touhy has always been an area that has never really, you know sparked any interest. So
no,
I mean,
not a big commercial.
No, it's not a commercial street, but I think Devon, there has to be, you know, aesthetically, there's got to be some, and everyone talks about it. I mean, and they are making some progress. And, you know, I give people credit when credit is due. They are making progress.
Now, okay, one other good question I got to ask too is do you have a particular pick? I mean, next time around, what are the things, if you're in charge of the Democratic Party, is you get to like definitely put your weight behind who's going to run for alderman?
Well, but the mayor will, if you know, the mayor also is involved. I don't know. We'll have to. You know, look, the aldermanic election is not for another 3 years.
Right.
And you know, I'm not going there. I mean, my job right now is, if I become committeeman, is to build the organization where people can look at this ward and say, hey, they have a political organization there. Let's, you know, I want candidates to come and talk to us. and we can be a force somewhere in the political organization. But I'm not, that's in 3 years. I can't predict the future. And there's an old saying, man plans and God laughs. So a good Yiddish saying. So I'm not going to talk about that right now.
My father always used to tell me how I think everything down to the last detail. And he basically let me know it ain't going to happen no matter how hard you work.
Who knows? I mean, who knows?
But basically, okay, just to be clear for people, you haven't promised anybody the alderman's job?
No, I mean,
there's no agreement?
There's been no agreement with anybody. I will tell you that I have the individuals that ran against Berny, Greg Brewer helping me, Nazy Dolar is helping me. But I have not made...
Nazy actually got 3 petitions signed for you.
Yes. But I have not made any deals with any, and I've told each one of them, if you want to help me, fine, but I'm not guaranteeing anyone that I'm going to back them. I mean, I don't know who else is going to be running or what happens in 3 years.
Well, let me ask you this. What about it? What if Bernie Stone, let's say you win and Bernie Stone runs, any chance you'd support him?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. But I've not made any promises to anybody. They've come to me and said, we want to work on this campaign, and I'm honored because of that.
Okay, very good. At this point, Mickey's hands are really getting into the direction where we're going to run out of time. So he is not Marty Levinson, by the way, although you might see him as such in the beginning of some of the shows. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, Senator Ira Silverstein, running for re-election unopposed for state senator, but running against Bernie Stone for Democratic Committeeman of the 50th Ward. Early voting starts January 14th. The election itself is February 5th. And at that point, you'll have 9 months to figure out why you didn't want to vote for any of the people you voted for. I'm your host, Avi Meyers. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.